It's good to see everybody. Um, Ken and I were talking recently, and Ken said, Susan, you should talk about your certification courses that you're taking now. So we thought it might be a good topic for the monthly call to just talk about the genealogical certifications that are available and sort of what mine is and how it sort of relates with becoming a certified genealogist. So I'm going to share my screen and let me know if you guys can see it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay, great. So, like I said, we were talking and we thought it would be a good topic of conversation. You know, um, I got into wanting to pursue certification, a different type of certification, but I'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to improve my research standards. I wanted to get some more practical experience. And quite frankly, I wanted to sort of show to myself that I had um, that I wasn't missing something, as I was doing my research and as I was doing this, that, and the other. So, a friend of mine had just finished up a post-nominal
Mom.
certification with the International Institute of Genealogical Services, and I decided to pursue it through there. And I'll show you in a reason why I chose what I did. And people can do all sorts of programs. This is just one of them. But I think when most of us see, professional genealogists, sorry, I'm trying to get my mouse to work. We all understand that it is, basically it says that this person has reached a certain standard of research and has a certain standard of reporting and also too just is keeping up professional standards when it comes to genealogy. But I think most of us, I certainly didn't understand what it took to get that certification. So I'm just going to go to slide 2. What we're going to discuss today are I'm going to talk about two, but there are some others, major certification programs. We're also going to talk about the requirements. And then I'm going to talk about mine, which is a post-nominal certification through the International Institute of Genealogical Studies. And let me just get there. So, and I don't know that this is actually, I mean, I think if we thought about it, maybe we would have all known this. But in the United States, professional genealogy is an unregulated field. People can hang up a shingle and they don't have to have any training whatsoever. But when most people are willing to spend money to hire a genealogist to do research, they're going to look for somebody who has achieved some form of certification. And that certification, as I mentioned before, it speaks to that person's ability to do comprehensive research and that they're doing it right, that they're doing the right type of source verification and the right type of reporting. And then I think one area that we kind of don't think about very much, but there's also confidentiality and ethics when it comes to all of this. And to me, that also includes use of AI. AI can be a wonderful tool, but it can also cause some real problems, especially when it comes to the reporting that we do about our genealogy. Um, so, I think if we're going to spend the money to hire a professional genealogist, we're going to make sure that they have some form of certification that reflects their level of professionalism when it comes to their research. So the two programs I decided to focus on, and one is probably, more, the first one is the Board of for Certification of Genealogists, BCG, and that is a U.S.-based organization that awards certified genealogist credentials to those who have demonstrated their competence in research, analysis, kinship determination, and reporting skills. And in order to get this certified genealogist credential, the examination entails, three things. You have to submit a portfolio, and that portfolio of work, and I have in here up to 150 pages, and I would say most people are submitting things at that level, up to 150 pages, which includes transcription, analysis, some type of research report, and case studies, talking about using indirect evidence, and a kinship determination project. And that kinship determination project is something I've seen in several certification programs. Then, while they don't require it, um, as part of, if you wanted to go and take this examination, most people who sit for the exam have, a very substantial amount of education and experience, 1,500 hours plus, um, towards, their genealogical endeavors. And then there is a written exam which tests knowledge on methods and standards. And what I found interesting, and I didn't realize this last point, which was that these credentials have to be renewed every 5 years, and that there is a requirement for kind of continuing education and peer partnership and different types of things. So it's not only something that people get awarded, but then they have to renew for it. So um, and what's interesting is, I think you'll notice here, it's not saying you have to take a course through us in order to take and sit for the exam. And that was, again, another reason why I chose to do a post-nominal program to make sure I had the education to sort of, before, if I ever wanted to sit for and get my credentials from BCG, that I'm taking this coursework that I'm doing um, so that I can be prepared for this exam if and when I decide to take it. There's another program. This is the International Commission for the Accreditation of Professional Genealogists. It's ICAP Gen. And this is worldwide standards. So it's not just really with a focus on the United States. This is worldwide. And like the BCG Professional Genealogist certification examination, they too have a 4-generation project. So a kinship relationship project. Um, what's interesting here is that they award, it's called the Accredited Genealogist Credential. Again, I guess I wasn't paying attention to all of the different um, credentials that follow people's names in various different programs that I've attended, but each program sort of has their own specific way of identifying a certified genealogist. So it's interesting here is the ICAP Gen focuses on a regional experience and expertise and requires a 4-hour exam, a 4-hour, 3-part portfolio. So that's the testing report, that's research log, and the pedigree project, and an oral review. And what I found interesting about this is that in order to kind of get through very quickly, you have to score a 90 or above in all areas that you will be examined on. And if you receive a score under 90 in any one of these evaluation areas, um, the committee has, has an opportunity to add a supplemental test. So it can be, I think that sets a very high standard and a high bar. And personally, I don't want to sit through an exam like this or BCG more than once. You really want to go into it fully prepared um, to pass on the first go. So I also mentioned that there's some other relevant certifications and organizations, and um, I sort of I put in a specialized training program, and that's really what I've done. I did the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, but there is another organization called the National Genealogical Society. So, and there are others. I don't want to, this is not a comprehensive list of all of the places one could go um, and pursue some type of certification. These are just some of them. So I thought I would focus in on what I'm doing. So the International Institute, I'm just going to call it that International Institute for purposes of the rest of this talk. It's basically like a trade school program, and it does give a certification. It's a post-nominal certification of PL CGS. So when I successfully complete all of these courses, I will be able to put that after my name, and it represents Professional Learning Certificate in Genealogical Studies. And people do, I will be very frank, there are people out there who will hang up a shingle and become, sell their services as a genealogist with this post-nominal accreditation alone. So just to break it down, there are 40 classes that have to be taken, and each one of them, so you're going to start with methodology, and there are 9 classes that you have to take in methodology, and they're broken down between, basic, intermediate, and advanced. And I'm taking my time with this. It's sort of something that I do when I have a free moment, and that's one of the nice things about this program. It's a self-learning program. There are um, opportunities to sort of be in an online class environment, but most of it is self-driven work. Um, and so I'm really just now kind of going into, I'm still in methodology, and that's where they ask you to start because it is the foundation to everything. Afterwards, they offer a number of different um, record groups that you can study on. And I chose to study American records. And but there are others, and I have them listed here, but there's Australian records, Canadian, DNA and genetic genealogy, Eastern Europe, English, German, Irish, Italian. There's librarianship, personal historian, professional development, and Scottish records. Um, and I guess one of the other things I really liked about this is while I am pursuing an American Records certification, I can always go back and take, if I want to Irish or I want to take, Scottish or Eastern Europe. I mean, it's not limited. Obviously, you have to pay an additional fee, but um, I like the idea that I can go back and I can focus on other areas once I complete. Um, so you take another, and I'll show you in a minute. I went ahead and I have to take 14 American courses, and then there will be an ability to do what they call electives. And so I have selected to do DNA. So I'm going to, while I'm not going to get a certification in DNA and genetic genealogy, I feel that I'm not as up to speed as I should be on DNA. So I really want to take this opportunity to take these classes and to improve my skills when it comes to DNA and analyzing DNA results. So I went ahead and just pulled, and I know it's probably hard to see on the screen, but as you see on these 3 snippets that I sort of took from my coursework study page, where it tells you, so there's, you'll see in the background American 100, American 200, American 300. Then you'll see methodology, basic, intermediate, and then there's advanced over on the very right. And then this does not include my electives. Those are things that I will sort of dive into um, once I'm through taking all of these courses. As you'll be able to see, I have taken three of the, three classes so far. I am currently in 104, which is talking about transcribing, abstracting, and extracting records. And, as much as this is something I've already known how to do, I find it very, very helpful to go back and have to do all of the classwork that goes into it. Because I do think over time we might try to cut corners, and I'm talking about doing my own research, that this has been a good opportunity to sort of refocus my own skill sets. So, um, some of the courses I'm looking at, at the screen that's sort of right in the center that's a little larger. Um, they do everything, American newspapers, American military court records, and then occupational records. And that may not, that's sort of like a broad category, but they become very, very specific as you go into the materials. And I also included a copy, so this is of my current class, which is transcribing, abstracting, and extracting. And you'll see here on the right the table of contents, and they have modules. So you're doing classwork throughout the class that you're submitting. Some of it is called public assignments, and some are private. The private assignments are, comparing your results with the professor's results. Um, and then at the end of each class, there's a test. And, when I first started this, I guess I was a bit cocky, but I was like, "Ah, how hard can this be? I know how to do this basic." But it was very interesting. I thought that the tests were a little challenging. So it kind of put me in my place. And and they're open book. So obviously you can go back and look. But it's one of those things where you're kind of like, oh, not as easy as you might think. So um, I found it to be very challenging. Like I said, I'm enjoying this, and I I I I'm taking my time. I think if I can complete in the next year, I'll be happy. But if it takes me more time than that, I'm perfectly happy with that as well. And I do like the flexibility that they afford me. So if I start a class, they usually have a start and a stop date. But sometimes life gets in the way. So I reach out to them. They're like, no problem. And they'll push my end date further out into the calendar. And I've never had a problem with contacting them or anything else. But like I said, the bottom line is, I mean, once I complete this program, I'm going to be in a far better position if I choose to go and sit for an exam to get my professional genealogy certification. Or I might just be happy enough to leave it with the post-nominal certification that I'll get once I complete here. But um, it's something that, like I said, it's when I took early retirement. So this was one of the things I sort of said to myself, a gift to myself. I'm going to go back and improve some of my skills. So um, I'm going to stop there because that's sort of the end of what I've put together. But I want to ask folks if they have any questions or, you know, about the program I'm attending, or maybe something about the certification, the professional genealogist or accredited genealogist credentials that I mentioned before.
What is the cost involved?
So it's going to differ, and there's obviously a cost to applying to sit for the exams. I went ahead because you can do it course by course. You can do it. I went ahead and paid for the full program in full because there was a rebate, there was a discount by going ahead and committing to all the classes. And I think, and I'm spitballing here a bit, but I think it was a little under 6,000.
6,000?
Yeah, a little under.
Okay, okay.
But the courses themselves, they can be taken one at a time. There's nothing that says you have to go and, you know, sign up for the whole Megillah. You can certainly approach it course by course or even section by section.
Did you compare prices with other programs when
I
you
did
started this?
I did not. And the reason I didn't is because I had a good friend who was so happy with the program, and he kind of, like myself, really just wanted at that point to improve skills. That I was like this, and it was something that I felt comfortable with. So I'm going to stop sharing so we can see one another.
Okay, yeah.
But um, I certainly would, and he sort of showed me things that were, in his coursework and how things were, and I was like, this, works for me. So my feeling is that, like I said, anybody can sit for an exam. It's whether or not you'll be successful. So, again, hedging my bets, I just really wanted to make sure that my skills were, I was refreshing my skills and then hopefully adding some new ones and especially about DNA. I'm very excited to sort of take those sections because I see those as skills I lack.
So you could take just one or two sections without taking the entire course if you were just specifically wanting to focus on like just on DNA. You could
Yes,
take just DNA to satisfy what you were desiring.
right.
That's neat. Very interesting.
Ken?
Well, uh, yeah, that cost may seem high, but I guess you have to factor in that it's involving a lot of coursework, which for the CG, the Board of Certification, uh, I went through that process. Oh, I started that process many years ago and kept putting it off and putting up. But I don't think it's anywhere near that expensive. But again, you're not taking coursework in that. It's simply you're completing the requirements that they need to judge you. So I think I haven't looked lately, but I would say that's probably in the $500 to $1,000 maybe category by now. But this is a very different, ball of wax.
If I have to compare it to anything, so, when I went to law school, in order to sit for the bar exam in Pennsylvania, you have to go to law school. But there are some states where people can self-study and then they can sit for the bar. Chances are probably their chance of successfully passing the bar sort of without the education part of it are slim. So, I sort of see this as my way of, again, my objective, at least at the time, was not to become a professional genealogist per se, but to make sure that my skills were at a place that I could feel confident when I'm sharing information with my family, or even, I act as the genealogist for the Blair Society, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing something that, I don't want to mislead. So that was part of the focus for me, was just to give myself that sense of security that I had everything covered.
Well, I think one of that advantages of what you're doing is that ability to pick and choose different areas that which the rest of us who may not be interested in going for the whole shebang, that's a good way to sort of a la carte educate yourself and with some sort of testing accountability uh, uh, factor into it. I at some point after with the certification, the CG, I just decided if I'm not going to do this professionally, it was just but the discipline
Mhm.
certainly of writing reports and analysis of information and making sure that I don't think you really touched on, but there's something called the genealogical proof standard, which
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and there are several factors in that.
Right.
And one of those is conducting a reasonably exhaustive search. And I keep questioning myself on that when you're going back to research that you've done years ago, and you realize there are resources available now that you probably
Right then.
you haven't looked at that were not available or weren't readily available then. So it's a good way of sort of taking a fresh look at your own research and seeing what might be possible.
And that is really, at the end of the day, that's what that, the focus, at least with the group that I'm working with, is on methodology. Again, proof standard, it's also, just, and also too, they sort of are addressing, I haven't really gotten into it yet, but they address it sort of at every step about the use of artificial intelligence, which is something that really hasn't been addressed until very recently. But there are, I mean, we've talked about it on our calls, and we've talked about how we can use AI for various different things, but there's a place for it, and then there's a place that it shouldn't, you need to do the research yourself as opposed to relying on the AI to generate an answer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, is your course structured so you have much interaction with others who are going through the same process at this time, or is it all just kind of self-directed?
So when you submit your public assignments, you're able to see what other the responses have been generated by other students. They also have sort of, open days where you can, sort of pop in. As the classes become more advanced, there is more interaction among groups of people. But for like right now, I'm just sort of in the basic area. Um, and that's the other thing. I mean, every time I've had a question, the staff has been incredibly responsive. So I sort of felt fully supported by whoever I need. But I can't, having not sort of gotten into the classes where that's going to be more a part of it. But yes, it is part of the program. But again, I don't think they're unique. I think there are other, you know, I'm certain I've heard other people talk about various different certification programs that they've done. So I think it's whatever, to do your research to find that, you know, what I call the post-nominal accreditation or certification. It's not the professional genealogist certification that comes through BCG, but like I said, there are people who simply take this post-nominal and hang out a shingle. I don't know that the CG is, to me, it is important because it sort of says I've met this standard. It's like sitting for the bar. Yeah, I went to law school, but I didn't sit for the bar. Well, sitting for the bar sort of means you've met this um, universal standard that's been established by that organization. But again, as I mentioned before, there is no licensing requirement in the United States. So each of these groups, while they may be nonprofit, they have determined their own, credentialing program. But BCG is very well known, and
Yeah.
that is, to me, that is the best in the United States. So that would be the one that I would be wanting to sit for if I choose to do that.
I think, our takeaway from all of this is the aspect of regarding it sort of as just continuing education for all of us. None of us, or few of us, are really interested in necessarily being professionals and hiring out to do work to others. It's more in, improving our skills to do our own research. And this is a good way to do that, especially the program that you're involved in. But there are other, in terms of DNA, you may be familiar with a woman named Diane Southard, Your DNA Guide.
Yep.
Offers courses on various aspects of DNA. And those are very structured, and you do have interaction with not only their team of experts, but the other participants. So they have that aspect as well. And, even more sort of informal, we've talked about the legacy family webinars and the other resources online. Connie Knox's genealogy TV, I think it's called, and some others, where you can avail yourself of picking a category and have access to somebody who knows the ins and outs of whatever they're talking about. So it all sort of comes under the heading of that sort of continuing education, improving our skills. And that's why I thought it would be uh, interesting to talk about this, which is more structured and perhaps geared towards getting that post-nominal. But what it reflects really is a discipline and a disciplined approach to how we do our work. Uh,
Well, and you know, we're coming up on it, so I'm going to mention it. Roots Tech is coming up, and while a lot of what they offer, so you know, applying or attending virtually is there's no charge, and they have everything from and what's interesting is they have you know classes for every level, but they also have some classes that are kind of geared towards professionals. They have classes that are geared towards people who are at intermediate level. Again, you have to determine what level you are, but I think even attending things such as Roots Tech or other, the New England Regional Genealogical Conference. I mean, they're all ways of doing continuing education that I think number one, I always find them fascinating. So I'm signed up for Roots Tech. I think I'm not gonna sleep for 3 days if I attend all the classes that I signed up for. But the other thing is you can watch them after they've occurred. So I really
That's right.
like that as
Mhm.
well. But it's a great way to it does foster, more learning, but it also talks about, the basic skills that we should all be employing. Um, the coursework, really, to me, the difference between what I'm doing through the International Institute and like a Roots Tech is a little bit more, a little bit here, a little bit there. This is very thoughtful and progressive. So.
May I ask another question? Has any, in the kind of like following along that vein of just continuing ed, for us as family historians, has anybody attended the Pittsburgh? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Hmm.
There's a a set of courses that are offered in Pittsburgh periodically, and
Oh,
the name of the group escapes me now, but
now, it sounds familiar what you're speaking of.
yeah.
There's also another institute. I think it's in Tennessee or something. But I know Judy Russell teaches,
mhm.
and she may be involved with both of those. But yeah, they have really top-notch people in various categories. And if you've got the time and the money and whatever, those can be very, very valuable. Yeah,
And also too, doesn't Family Search offer some in-depth courses? I have never looked
I think
into
they
it, but
do.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, for me, being online was important, but I also attend events, but um, uh, on my own, sort of self-instruct, so I kind of I'm pursuing it when I can. So, this has worked out for me. But yeah, more than anything, it's just giving me the confidence that the skill sets that I have are, I'm still it's interesting. We're now doing abstracting. And, I'm a trained attorney, so everything's important to me. So I'm having a hard time extracting it. But, I'm one of those people, I'll transcribe first and then I'll abstract. But I don't want to have to keep going back to the original record. So I'd rather keep too much in my transcription. But it's funny. I just can't stop myself. I'm like, yeah, I know I need to get rid of that word, but I'm not going to. I'm just
It would be interesting to, as an experiment, is to take a document, do your own abstraction, maybe your own transcription as well, and then have AI do it and compare them.
yeah.
Uh, but certainly using full text search, we see that a great deal when you pull up a document. You can see both very easily. And in a way, that's an instructional guide as well, seeing what AI has considered important in a document to abstract
Right.
and
And
see how
and
that compares to what's important. Yeah.
somebody had mentioned that, and again, I haven't tried it myself, that using AI with some of the older records where the handwriting with the double S's are the double Fs that represent S, all of those sort of old rules that they can read that handwriting a lot better than we can. Because I'm sitting here on my computer blowing up, trying to make out every but again, I haven't tried it myself with AI.
Well, and if you're doing this coursework anyway,
They don't want us to.
they don't want you to, and I understand that. But at some point, just as an experiment, it would be interesting to see, do it yourself, and then see how they do it, and see which
Yeah,
better, or just see how they're different.
yeah, yeah. So, are there any other questions?
A
Well, thanks,
society
everybody.
there's a society near us in Wales that is actually training AI to read these 15th century documents and everything, and they're beginning to do okay on it.
Well, that's the beauty of AI is, those are language learning modules, and the more they do and get corrected and so forth, the better they become at it. They may not be perfect yet or ever perfect, but they're certainly probably going to be more adept at it than you or I, who have barely, attempted that sort of thing. So yeah, in those cases where the language and the handwriting and the age of the document where language was used differently anyway, then that I think AI is definitely a useful tool, and that's what it is. It's a tool.
Yeah. But I could see where, just like, we've all experienced it where in Ancestry, people type in a name and an age range and they go, ooh, that's my person and that's my person. I could see if you use AI and just say, it's right, I'm not going to investigate any further. That becomes to me, that's going to be the challenge um, for folks,
Well,
who want that quick hit.
Well, Bill Parke is here, and I owe him some emails. This all sort of happened as I was on the plane coming to vacation, and since I've been down here, I've been a slug. But we need to, talk about some of the early Alexander parks in Aberdeenshire. And we've been comparing some trees that we saw online and other records, and there are definitely some differences of opinion. And I think it's a case where people have taken a name and a baptismal record and assigned it to their line, whether it is or not. And that's why you get these different versions of the same person appearing in different trees that can't be, one or the other can't be right. And what I think we need to start to do is, because we are starting to have some DNA, some big Y DNA available, that can help sort some of this out. At least it's a start, an attempt to do that. Because Alexander Park in Aberdeenshire, or probably in anywhere in Scotland, is like John Smith. I mean, it's just such a common name, such a common given name, especially.
Yeah.
I'm currently helping a lady who's she's in America, but she's researching in my town, and I discovered some information for her, and she said, "Oh dear." And this is a mistake she made a long time ago, and she's had to apologize for her mistake spreading all over the internet for a non-existent surname. So
I've seen back in I guess it would be late 90s or early 2000s, I had a family tree on, and I think it's archived now, but it's out there. You can find it. And I know there was one bit of misinformation in there. And I've seen it pop up other places. I saw it copied into a lineage that were Park Society members. And I know where that came from because it was my mistake. So, it's, trying to kill it it's like, impossible. They're like zombie Zombies, the genealogy zombies, we should call them or something. You know,
Is
you just,
is AI going to keep throwing that at you, Ken?
hmm.
Yeah.
I see cousin Daniel Parks sneaked in on us while we are going there, and he's got his kitty on his chest.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome,
Yeah, I don't have much say in this.
welcome. Janice Park, welcome. I saw you, took you a while to get in, and I'm glad you made it. So welcome. David Park, David Cole Park, hello. I think you're muted. And David, we need to talk because your DNA test, you need to sign the release on that because we cannot use those results until you sign that release. So you can do it online once you log into your account. So if you need help, maybe Caleb can, when the next time he visits, can help do that. But it's very frustrating because the test is sitting there, but it's not of great use to us right now without that signed release. Who else is here? Who else?
Well, you know something, Ken, is it next month we're doing the DNA or is it going to be in?
I think in June we'll do another
Okay,
DNA.
June. Okay. Do we know which group?
No, not yet.
Okay.
There,
I was just curious.
there's so many to choose from.
I know.
And you know there are things happening, exciting things happening in some of them. I was just telling Daryl his group 42 has had some recent results that came in that are starting to bring all of those parks together that seem to have originated in Staffordshire, but who knows? But then early on was in Ireland in Sligo County, Park Castle. Early on, we have the Purse House, which came from there and went to South Africa, went to Australia, and the Lieutenant Richard Park line in Massachusetts early on. We're still trying to sort that out. And there are other groups that, you know, if we can just get a few key test results in there, it can opens things up a great deal. I thought I had one in my group, but the test results were inconclusive, let's just say. So
Okay.
I have to go back to the drawing board and find someone
Ken,
else.
at some stage, I'd like to know who else is in our 008 group. I only know you and me. I don't know anybody else that's in that group.
All of the people who are here today, Daniel Parks is a cousin of ours.
Is he?
Yep.
Where's Daniel? Oh, there. Hello, Daniel.
And Bill Park over here. I say over here, he could be in a different spot.
Right.
Uh,
Right. So we're cousins, are we? Then, right, okay.
Yep.
Brilliant.
And that's the interesting thing too. You know, asking that question and then seeing who on the screen is actually connected through DNA is very fun.
So
Lou, you're on mute.
There. Judy and I are connected. She's Thomas of Virginia, lineage key C.
Yep.
Yep, that's correct.
And
So-
I'm gonna, like I admitted before, I'm not very good with DNA, but I'm Robert Parks, but I don't know what his lineage key is.
T. Well, generally T. S, T, and W. Tad could explain it. He put separate lineage keys for the three known sons of Robert, I think. And now he's back. So,
And I think I'm Robert Thomas. That's probably.
Oh, are Daniel and Bill back to Aberdeenshire?
yes, Bill's line does go back to Aberdeenshire. Yeah.
Right, okay.
He it was actually your test bill that sort of led us there, because we had County Armagh,
Yeah.
and then we had another test come in that pointed to Scotland, but that immigrant ancestor, that Alexander Park that we're talking about that came to Indiana, actually came from Dumfriesshire, but we believe he may have been born in Aberdeenshire. But that's one of the things we're sort of going to be looking at more closely.
Well, I mean, there was only 12 miles between the closest point between Northern Ireland and Scotland.
Hmm.
A sea, I mean, to cross.
Well, also Bill's line, when they migrated from Aberdeenshire, came down to was it Carlisle first? Was it
Yes, yeah.
just below the border with Scotland, and not far north of Kendal, which we've had another park line in our group for many years that was in Kendal, possibly as early as 1700, until they came to Canada, and there are a couple of guys over in Western Canada from that line. And now we know that they almost surely probably came from Aberdeenshire as well. And until Bill's test, came up, we thought possibly that our County Armagh parks were from Northern England, because that was the early test that we had. But now I think we've got a better bead on the path of migration for our line.
And yeah, don't forget that before Aberdeenshire, the spelling of Park was Parc, and they came from France.
Mm.
And in my DNA profile, I actually have French DNA. So that kind of proves that link, unless somehow it came from, obscurely some other angle along the way.
Well, yeah, I do know what part of France that park line supposedly came from.
Normandy, would it be, Bill?
Well, if it was Normandy, that would
Viking.
that would agree with our
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
am.
think it was more kind of from the Belgian Dutch area when those countries, France in particular, was at war with Britain, and they had they and the Scots had a common enemy, and they're all Catholic, so they kind of moved between France and Scotland, and
Right.
I think that's when that developed. And I think I mentioned a long time ago, I actually met a French person with the name Park who said he had ancestors in Scotland.
Wow.
So that might have been
If
like
you ever bump into him
they went to
again,
Well, that's right, yeah.
sit
So
on
he
his
might
lap
be,
and swab his cheek.
yeah.
Don't let him get away.
That might have been a case where they went to Scotland and then rather than go on from Scotland somewhere, they just went back to France. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Something like that. But
until about 1400, that area of Scotland was mainly ruled by the Vikings from Norway. Um,
I don't have any of that
no,
blood.
no. Well, I did my granddaughter's family history, and I did get her back to the Vikings in Norway because they were all nobility, etc. And this is nothing to do with our park line or anything, sadly. But I've studied the fact that one of our ancestors was the Jarl of Orkney, and then I studied that the fact that they were constantly fighting with the Picts in Scotland, and they were actually Norway seceded that bit back to Scotland in the 1400s, which included where your ancestors were from, Bill.
Yeah, but I think the park
Mostly from
came
north of the
from
Moray
France
Firth.
after that.
Pardon?
I think the parks came from France after that period.
Right.
I don't think there was a lot of movement between France and Scotland when the Vikings were there and were
Well, I
involved.
mean, there would be when it was Normandy because Normandy was Viking.
Yeah, but the Normans never conquered Scotland. They gave up like the Romans. No one could get in there.
They did hold Northumbria for a long time.
Yeah, that's England.
Yeah, I know it is. It's on the Great Viking Army route.
Mm.
So
Well,
interesting.
stay tuned. Maybe someday we'll have all of those answers.
Yeah, I've come across gravestones with a French name and the name Park after, like Jacques Park. Kind of also hints at that French connection. But yeah, I've got it, as far as I can go in terms of um, written documents and gravestones. Prior to that goes back to about 1600. So prior to that, you have to be more famous. So we need a few famous parks to be unearthed that can show that link back to France. Mm.
I
Well,
am I am Belgian, but I have no relation to any Parks, as that's my maternal line.
I do hope that perhaps someday, because the little town of Lonmay there in Aberdeenshire, I think some of our parks were known to live in that village. And I discovered that Elvis Presley's Presley ancestors came from that same small town. So maybe we're distant cousins of the king.
Thanks, Susan. This was a really interesting presentation. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to present.
Well, we haven't come up with a topic yet for next month or even the month after that. So please, if anybody has ideas,
Or
shout
wants
out.
to present.
Or exactly. If something you'd like to talk about. Um, and,
We love it.
even taking an example from your own research and talking through and showing us how you made progress and learned things and that I think we can all find interesting. So don't be
Well,
shy.
Ken, you bring up a good point. So if anybody has in their research come across a brick wall and they want to come and talk to us about it, I don't know that it has to be necessarily a park brick wall, but although we do have some brick walls, I mean, it might be something um, to want to, say, hey, I'd like 15 minutes to chat about this and maybe get some collect feedback. So that might be something too.
That's an idea. A brick wall town hall.
Session.
Brick wall town hall. So
Said I could probably sort of talk about how I tracked down my Alexander Parks.
Yeah,
yes, that's an interesting story.
yeah.
It is really, yes, he was a rogue. Yeah, okay.
And it not only benefited Gay, but
Yeah,
the entire rest of our group got the benefit of that. So, but we won't spoil the story. We won't
Yeah,
okay.
spoiler alerts here.
Well, not
that
well,
would be
not
great.
next month because I'm having a lot of gardening and decorating done throughout March, but April, yes,
Okay.
maybe if you want. Is that okay?
Sure.
April would be great.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I have to run. Was great. Talk to you
Well,
later.
thanks, everybody.
Okay.
The pool is calling me, folks.
Have fun.
Well, thank you all, and thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Take
Don't-
care.
Thank you.
Ken,
Bye.
can you stay
Bye.
back for a couple minutes, please?
Sure, let me stop the recording. Pause, stop.